So you all have clued in, and there was a couple questions at the break around this issue, but it really gets harder in adolescence and in adulthood to start to tease some of these issues out. And people will self-select, and it becomes harder and harder to find intervention programs. So what is typical? And that was really some of the questions over the break. What is typical computer use, or typical Game Boy use, or typical computer game use? And one of the things we talked about over the break, sort of off record at that point, was the fact that at the point where you can't pull a child away from a computer game without them having a meltdown, or that they're not having any social interactions, and that they start to know the name of every computer game out there to the exclusion of other things, that's when you start to think restricted and repetitive interests. You know, part of the issue is this day and age, almost all kids are stuck to their computers, us too. We spend way too much time on Facebook, and I expect we're going to start to see those studies and what it means to social relationships to have us on Facebook and all those things for so many hours. Part of the research is out there already. Kids having too much screen time, especially early on, really bad for attention. Really bad for attention. So the more kids are limited early on from computers, I think it's the better thing. And that's certainly part of what we're finding. Dating and social activities take on new importance. So being able to go out in group activities, kids these days are dating in groups younger. So the 16 age cutoff, so the 12 cutoff, you'll find they'll go out in groups. That's where a lot of the bullying can take place, and where it's really important for a lot of these kids on the spectrum to start to really try to figure out how to intervene or be really selective about who they go out with, and make sure they have a buddy or an adult that they can go to at all times to be able to talk with you about any sorts of behaviors that are problematic. Depression, we talked a little bit about. I think it's really important to talk with them about the depression. The little guy that I was telling you about, who was 2 or 3 when he came in with all the business cards, I'll never forget. And I still always ask this question in every clinical interview I do. What could I do? If I could do one thing to make your life better, what could I do? His answer to me, I talk funny. Make it better. I don't want to talk like this anymore. I'm paraphrasing, that wasn't his language, that's mine. But he was really aware that he talked differently than the other kids. At 2, 3, that's pretty amazing, right? Wow. Yeah, and they'll tell you that. And if you're not talking like other kids, they get it, that it means something different. And that's pretty incredible. The other thing is that these kids, the sense of privacy, increased need for autonomy, especially given what you can buy online these days, really, really problematic. So I've had a bunch of kids get into trouble with credit cards. They'll take credit cards out of their parents' wallets and go online and buy stuff. Stuff gets delivered to the house, and all of a sudden the parents are like, what? Oops. So having those conversations with parents about, and making certain they have those conversations with kids about, online predators, and also, who you talk to. The whole stranger discussion takes on new meaning for these kids. Autonomy is really hard for these kids, because most of the time these kids are really great targets for other kids who want to enlist them to do things. So all things that as a clinician you need to watch out for.